it can be easier or it can get better, all right? But we got to be mindful of certain things. So I'm going to lay this out for you, and I hope you really embrace the message, because if you make these adjustments, you're going to see better results. So with no further ado, number one mistake, and I'm going to give you a total of 7. The last one is what I truly believe is the biggest one, all right? But I'm going to give you a bunch of other ones you need to be mindful of. So number one mistake people make when dating, you're not being yourself. Listen, I understand there's a lot of videos out there, a lot of information telling you how to get the guy, get the girl, how to make this person fall for you and all these things, right? And I got videos on my channel about that, but I make sure I tell you in that video that at the end of the day, you need to find the person who truly loves you for who you are, all right? The person who truly connects with you, the real you, not your representative, not what you think you're supposed to act like, what you truly are. Now, granted, some of the things that you think you're supposed to be are things you should be working towards, all right? So like, for example, for men, tapping into your masculine energy is going to be hugely beneficial. And it is part of who you truly are. Same way tapping into a woman's femininity is for her, all right? How we communicate, becoming better communicators. These are things we should be working towards. But we have to decipher or determine what are sustainable changes, all right, and truly good for us as individuals, and tapping into our better selves versus trying to act like something that doesn't properly align with us, isn't sustainable, isn't actually healthy. Don't engage in those things. Don't engage in tips and tricks. Don't try to put on a representative. So perfect example, let's say you're a guy, and let's say you're a very modest guy. You're not into all the flash and expensive stuff and all these things. And you meet this woman and she seems like she's a girl that has expensive taste. Don't be trying to take her to 5-star restaurants and splurge on her to impress her when that's not a life you can sustain. Not because you may not have the money or may not eventually have the money, but because that's not your way of living. It doesn't connect with you. You're not going to want to keep doing that after you get her. So even if you get her, she's now going to become unhappy and you're going to become annoyed by her constant need for things that you don't see as valuable in life. Same thing as a woman. If you sit there and you try to get all dolled up, but let's say you're more of a conservative woman, you don't care for all that, you just want to chill, be at home, watch a movie, whatever. And you meet this guy and he likes these glamorous looking girls. And you're like, all right, I'm going to get all spiffied up or whatever you want to call it so I can impress this guy. All right, cool. So you get his attention and then you can't sustain it. And now he's looking at you like, what's this? I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for that other girl. What are you doing? So you got to really make sure that what you're bringing to the table initially is what you can sustain. And you want to make sure, again, that they are connecting with the true you. That's what's going to build you up for great relationships. But people make this mistake of trying to act like something different to only set themselves up for disaster. Do not let that be you. Another mistake people make when dating is not asking enough questions. So I see it all the time, men and women, where you become fearful of asking questions because I don't want to run them away, or maybe this is too soon, or, I'm doing too much. I may come off too strong. And the reality is that, listen, it's not the question you ask, it's how you ask it. It's like not what you say, it's how you say it. So number one, do not be afraid to ask questions, but yes, be mindful of how you're coming across. We don't want to interrogate people. We don't want to make them feel like they're being attacked, all right, or even being judged in that moment. We want to come off with an energy of, I'm trying to learn you. I'm trying to understand your values, where you stand, what you want in life, so on and so forth, to ensure that we are on the same page, that we want the same things, that we can have a healthy and amazing relationship together. But you cannot discover that if you are fearful of asking questions you are curious of. Now, some people may say, well, what kind of questions you should ask? Ask whatever you're thinking. Ask what's important to you. Now, I do think you should ask things like, what do they want in life? How do they view relationships? What's the role they see themselves playing in a relationship? What's the expectations, which I'm going to get to in a second? We want to dive into all these different things. We want to think about what would we need to know, or what are we going to have to deal with in a relationship let's talk about it now. If we're dating and trying to date for the purpose of relationships, committed relationships and marriage, let's think about what we got to deal with in that dynamic. Let's address that now. Like I remember one time going on a date many, many years ago and asking a question of a woman like, okay, here's a scenario. Let's say at that time, I still do at times, go to a club because I like listening to music. When I go, you don't really see me dance, but I can sometimes start to dance. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. The point is, sometimes I like going. And I asked her, I said, listen, so what would happen if we were to separately be at a club and someone wants to dance with us? Is it appropriate to dance with someone if the partner is not there? Or is there an issue? And so we discussed it, and we actually both didn't have a problem if, the other's dancing with someone out there, as long as it doesn't get disrespectful in the way that it's dancing, but simple dancing, harmless thing, not a big deal, at least for us. For other people, it would be an issue. Either way, I was thinking ahead of, okay, what's a scenario that might happen? Let's discuss it now. Let's ask these questions. Let's see how we would handle different things. Okay, if this happens, how would you want to handle it? Let's see if we have synergy right now and we see things the same way, or we can get on the same page so that when these things do happen, we're not fighting this new issue that we don't know how to handle, and we realize, holy crap, we don't see things the same way, and now we don't know if we can be together anymore because it's creating such a huge division within us. So just be willing to talk about everything and ask. But definitely if something's weighing on you, weighing on your spirit, whatever, ask it. And don't be afraid, because the person who's serious about you, who's trying to have a real relationship, does not take issues with you asking questions. They just take issue, again, if you're coming at them the wrong way with the question. So that brings me to the next mistake people make. Not sharing your expectations, all right? So I see so many times where people transition from dating to boyfriend, girlfriend, and even from boyfriend, girlfriend to marriage, never explicitly stating what they are expecting of the other in that next level of relationship, or even in the current level of relationship, all right? And so it leaves two people just basically throwing darts at the wall blindfolded, trying to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work, rather than just talking about it. Or it creates a situation where you don't really know, or they don't know what you're expecting. Now they don't live up to this expectation that you have but never communicated. And now you're mad at them or looking at them like they fell short. But you never explain what you're looking for. And if we did that and did that early on, we might discover, this isn't going to work. So for example, let's just say a man says to a woman, well, I need a woman who's going to be able to hold down my household and, will be willing to make sure I got food in my stomach and whatever. And she's like, nah, bro, I don't do those things. That doesn't work for me. Let's find that out as early as possible so that we don't go through this whole dating process thinking everything is all good, only to find out I can't meet your expectations, or I'm unwilling to meet your expectations. Same way a woman might say to a man, well, listen, I want a man who provides or who does this, that, and the other. And he's like, nah, you got to pull your own weight. Sister, you better go get a job. Like, we don't do that over here. Who knows? That might be his way of thinking. And if it is, again, let's talk about it early. Why are we dragging our feet and dragging this along? We are delaying the inevitable. But also what we may find out is we may share the same values, or we may embrace the other person's needs, expectations, and desires. And now we see, okay, we can work with each other. We can build from here. So be willing to lay that out. And again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Just don't be like, well, no, you need to be doing this, and that. No. Like, just listen. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I expect in a relationship. And this is what I am also prepared to give in return. So it's about stating your expectations, but also expectations and desires, as well as stating what you are willing to do. What are you willing to give? And the reality of relationship, it's not as much about what we are trying to receive. It's about what we're willing to give. All right. So basically, am I willing to give and pour into the needs of this person? And they're supposed to be saying, okay, am I willing to pour into the needs of that person? And if both of you can say yes, because you understand what each other's needs are, we good. But if there's a disconnect, if there's a no anywhere around there, why are we wasting each other's time? It's pointless. And if we try to move forward knowing we're unwilling to fulfill certain needs and desires, we are asking for trouble. I hate to say it, but I gotta say it. We are asking for infidelity. I'm not saying it's right or okay or whatever, but we're asking to set ourselves up for problems if we're gonna leave glaring voids in the relationship with what each other needs and desires. We gotta talk about it, be clear about it, and be willing to embrace it. So now my next mistake, biggest mistake that people make, or one of the biggest mistakes, and you probably knew it's gonna be somewhere on the list if you've been watching me long enough. Not healing from your past first, all right? Too many people trying to jump back into the dating game haven't healed, still carrying baggage and trauma from your past relationship, from your childhood, all right? From a lot of other things that are now negatively impacting your dating possibilities, all right? Also understand this. Not only is it a mistake because it makes dating harder, not only is it a mistake because you're going to drag in negative energy into this new relationship and many times hold this new person accountable for things they didn't even do, that they don't have nothing to do with because of what you already been through with other people. But more importantly, it is very likely to lead you to choose and entertain the wrong people. When we have not healed, when we're operating from a broken place, and again, I never say that to be disparaging or disrespectful or anything like that. It's truthful. Many of us have operated from a broken place various times in our lives. And when we're doing that, we are going to choose people who may seem emotionally safe. We may choose people that we feel like we have more control over, which is why someone who is, I hate using the word narcissistic, but it just came to me, I gotta say it. Narcissistic is looking for a situation where they can use their manipulation and their tactics. And yes, a lot of times when we get caught up with narcissistic people, because I wanna make something clear, there are narcissistic men and women, all right? I feel like whenever society mentions narcissism, it's like it's only men. No. It's men and women. And when we get caught up with those individuals, we have to understand that yes, there was very likely something in us that was not healed, that allowed us to entertain this individual and now be caught up in this situation. So either way, we have to be mindful that healing first is the key. Now, of course, I'm going to tell you, hold on, let me go grab it. Get the book, Love After Heartbreak. Click the link in the description. Click the link in the comments section. It's helping a lot of people. It gives you the steps to healing. It's like having one-on-one coaching, but in a book, self-healing. Trust me, it is going to be very helpful, but you need to do all the steps. A lot of people, it can get tough. I'm not going to lie to you, and they try to skip steps or remix steps. Listen, just do it as laid out, and you're going to see results. But that's very important. It's a huge step if you want to change your dating results into positive ones. And if you want to increase your ability to receive the person who is truly best for you and be able to have a healthy, amazing relationship with somebody. So let's continue. Next on the list of biggest mistakes people make when dating, not being honest. Now listen, I got to say this. I feel like everybody swears they're so honest, but I think we got to be real with ourselves. A lot of us, we don't always tell the exact 100% truth all the time, all day, every day. I'm not saying there aren't some of y'all who may have always been honest. I don't know. But we got to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes, whether it be, and it may not be dishonesty for the sake of manipulation. It may not be dishonesty because you're trying to be malicious or do anything negative to somebody. But sometimes it's dishonesty due to a lack of self-esteem, due to a lack of confidence. It could be dishonesty because, again, we're nervous in that situation and we want so badly to impress this person. It can be various reasons why we may twist the truth a little bit, bend it, or just flat out say a lie. And it gets the best of us. Not every person who's told a lie is this horrible person. We're human beings. We make mistakes. We get caught up in certain moments. It happens, but we do have to understand that if we want better dating and better relationships, we got to get a hold of that and not lie. We got to be able to stand in our truth. Stand in our truth in who we are. Stand in our truth in what we desire and expect. Stand in our truth about what we're willing to give. Stand in our truth about anything else, how we feel and what we're seeing with this individual. The more we can establish honesty early on, the healthier we can make this relationship and the better chance we have of exposing who is for us and who is not. Not to mention that, the unfortunate reality is that it only takes one lie to ruin a relationship. Once you plant that seed of doubt, now you make it difficult for that person to trust anything you say. And again, this can happen in both ways, because please do not be sitting here thinking it's only men telling lies. You got women telling lies all the time, or twisting truths or whatever. We got to be mindful of that, because especially in a world where people, especially when they become adults, have already been through something. Like, the reality is that we at some point in life are going to go through some kind of disappointment, hurt, whatever the case may be. Of course, those who heal can now overcome that to where it doesn't linger. But because most people don't heal or don't realize the need for healing, because of those lies they've been through, now any little lie going forward is going to trigger them. It's going to cause a lot of distrust, a lot of insecurity. And so we want to create more open, transparent environments so that we can have healthier relationships. So again, I don't want you to beat yourself up because you may have twisted the truth already. You may be dating someone right now and you gave a little white lie. And I get it. But we want to establish honesty and truth as much as we possibly humanly can, because that's what's going to create a much better, positive, loving environment in our relationship. And again, it helps expose who is for us and who is not a lot quicker. So it allows us to not waste our time, which is the wasting of time and letting these situations linger that really destroys the dating process. A lot of you have developed dating fatigue, is what I call it, because you've let people linger on longer than they should. You've let too much drama occur, and we have to be willing to cut things off. We got to be confident enough to cut things off, and we have to believe in the fact that we can let this go and know that better is going to come. Better can come, but we cannot hold on to situations or people that do not belong in our life because we are lonely, though I understand why it happens. Ain't no judging here. This is a no judgment zone on my channel. But I get it. I get why it happens, but I still got to tell you that, you got to be mindful of that. Be aware enough to where you don't get caught up in that loneliness, fear of starting over, whatever fears you have. Don't let fear get the best of you and allow you to stay stuck somewhere that you don't belong. All right, so we got 2 more to go. All right. The next one is not expressing desire or intention. And let me rephrase that. Not expressing enough desire or intention. So what I have noticed in all my years of coaching is a lot of people get derailed in their dating because they don't know where they stand. They don't know how the other person feels about them. They don't know how much they really like them. All right. And it's because a lot of us have become guarded. And because we become guarded, we are not as willing to be expressive about our like for someone, our interest, our desire in them. Now, granted, when it comes to sex, I think people are having a much easier time expressing desire for sex and talking about that. But when we're talking about real feelings, love, a genuine intention for someone, people hold back. They hold back, but they don't realize that in holding back, they're undermining the situation. And again, this happens on both sides. I've seen it happen with men. I've seen it happen with women. And I've seen some situations where both parties were holding back. And again, it just created a dynamic where they was like, okay, what's really going on here? And they would end up walking away, not realizing both of them were actually really feeling strongly for each other. But people are getting scared. And this is where it goes back to being confident and standing in your truth. Like, if you feel strongly for someone, be willing to express that. I know there's this fear of, I don't want to be a sucker, or I don't want to be rejected, or, I don't want to, in some people's minds, give them that power, and now they have an advantage over me. But there's no advantage if you're speaking your truth. That's your advantage, is that you can say, okay, I spoke my truth. I said how I feel. I know where I stand. And now I can require you to step up in that same way. And if you can't, now I can say, all right, this ain't going to work. Because I'm doing my part in being expressive. I'm doing my part in letting you know that I want you. But you got to do the same for me. And if you can't, what are we doing here? But don't be afraid, because I've seen so many situations get derailed because of that fear. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's expressing desire, or expressing enough desire, but also expressing intention. Where are we going with this? What are we trying to do here? And listen, though this is about healthy relationships and dating, and then dating to eventually get to marriage, yo, even if your intention is sex and sex only, like I know it's hard to just be real about that, because I know that doesn't go the way people really want it to go. But I'm just going to encourage you for the sake of, yo, let's eliminate as much confusion as possible. But I feel the need to say right now, and even though this video is for men and women, this is kind of more going to the women. Like sometimes you meet a guy and he actually had intentions to see where this can go. And he actually had intentions to potentially be with you in a serious relationship. But somewhere along the line, it got thrown off. And then he was like, you know what? He doesn't see it going there, but he still wants to sleep with you. Now, I'm not arguing whether that's right or wrong or whatever. I'm explaining to you to help you understand that not every situation that ends that way started that way. And then internalize that, well, all these men wanted sex or whatever the case may be. No, some of them did want something more, but it went left somewhere along the way. Now, again, it would be ideal if we all could just keep it real when that happens. You know what I'm saying? But it can be a hard conversation to have. Like to just say to somebody, yeah, I liked you before, but I don't see you like that anymore, but can you still sleep with me? Like, that's not easy. Again, I'm not saying it's right for them to not say it. I'm just saying that's a little difficult. All right. But I felt the need to put it out there just for the sake of, I think a lot of women have confused that scenario and internalized it as, oh, he was playing a game from day one. And it's like, that's not always the case, you know. But anyways, getting back to the main point here, be willing to express desire, be willing to express intention. Given that clarity is going to help things move forward, as well as help expose, okay, maybe we don't want the same things, or maybe we don't have enough desire here to make this work, and then we can move on to bigger and better things elsewhere. And now the last and the biggest mistake people make when dating, not trusting your gut or your intuition or your spirit. And we'll even say God, but I'm gonna leave the God part as a bonus. So let's put God on the table for a second. Gut intuition. Now I said gut because, you know, I almost feel like the gut really applies to men, even though to me gut intuition are pretty much interchangeable. But the reality is that we get that feeling inside, men and women. Even though I do feel like women, it's stronger for you, it's more natural for you. I do feel like, listen, as men, we've had times where we meet women and our gut tells us, man, she ain't it. But we find a reason to want to push forward or entertain this. Maybe it's because of sexual desire or whatever, all right? And a lot of times it's ignoring that gut or ignoring that intuition that sets us up for disaster. So many people, if they just went with that, even if you want to make the argument that trusting your gut and intuition is not 100% accurate, I would argue that at the very least, it is much more accurate than all the other analyzation we try to do during the dating process. I would argue that at the very least, it would create more successful situations than it would ignoring it. All right. So for that reason alone, I would still say it at the very least increases the odds of success and making the right decision. Your gut, your intuition, your spirit is trying to talk to you and tell you this ain't it. Or it might be telling you this is it and you're scared. And you're like, what? Dang, this doesn't make any sense. Or dang, are you sure? I don't know if I can handle this. Am I ready? There could be a lot of other stuff going on. Either way, we got to learn to become more aware, more in tune, and more willing to trust it. We got to learn the difference between analyzing and letting fear guide us in our decision-making process versus that gut intuition spirit hitting us that's saying to us, yo, this is whatever it's telling you, all right? And I do believe that in doing that, again, we can eliminate so much time wasted. We can eliminate letting situations linger on that don't need to linger on. Like so many people miss the mark by ignoring it. And again, men and women, we all got it, but we got to cultivate it. We got to practice listening to it, trusting it. So don't just wait till it's a dating situation. In any aspect of your life, if something inside is telling you, yo, this isn't right, or don't do this, or do this instead, like, trust it. Go with it. Practice flowing with it and see what happens. You know, and I'm telling you, I think more times than not, you're going to see success. But like I said, I want to leave the God as kind of a bonus, because not everybody watching this may be a believer. But for those of you who are, I believe the not asking God about this person is a huge mistake. Like, so many believers will include God in their careers, in their health, in various aspects of their life. But when it comes to dating and relationships, you're like, nah, God, I got it. Nah, I'll figure this out on my own. Nah, this is what I want, so I'm just going to go after what I want. Rather than asking God, is this person for you? Should you deal with this individual? Do you belong here? Maybe you got some more work to do for yourself. Maybe it's not your time yet. There's nothing wrong with that. I know it feels like, but damn, it's been a long time. I feel you. I feel you, okay? But listen, we got to understand. We got to go through a process. And sometimes our timing and God's timing does not line up. But I will tell you that God's timing is always better than our timing. All right? Always better than our timing. So learn to consult God in your dating and relationships. And again, you will save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of unnecessary situations and unnecessary time wasted. And you will start to see your dating experiences improve.
And why is healing in your mind so important in terms of building strong relationships?
It's important because it's the number one thing holding people back from having healthier relationships. It's the issue that so many people are facing, but they sweep under the rug. We've all been through stuff. We've all been damaged. We've all been disappointed and hurt, but we have not properly processed those things. And then we take those negative experiences and we project them onto people. We project them onto our future. We project them onto our self-esteem and self-worth, and we throw everything out of whack. And now we can't even embrace or set ourselves up for that great relationship because we're still holding on to the bad one that we experienced before. So it completely gets in the way of people seeing progress in their life. So to me, it's like, okay, we can give you all these tools and tips on how to date and how to navigate through this relationship world.
Online dating stuff. And this
exactly. And it's all useful, but if you don't heal, you're going to end up in a bad spot. There's no way around that. It's inevitable. And people who think they can ignore a lack of healing and still have a great relationship are being naive.
Yeah, it sounds like if you don't heal, you're going to keep hurting yourself and hurting the person you're in a relationship with.
Yes, and or hurting people that you could have been in a relationship with. Because so many people have run away or pushed away that real love because it was scary. It made them feel too vulnerable. And again, that stems from you've been hurt. And so you don't want to go back to that hurt again. So when somebody you feel deeply for pulls out all this love and this vulnerability out of you, it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is too much.
That's interesting. You know, many years ago, I was dating someone, and it was like, you know, we were very connected very quickly. I felt like, wow, there's something different about this person. And after months, she started sabotaging things. Like, we would be having like the most incredible nights, like everything was going great, and then all of a sudden she would just get mad at me over nothing, right? Which seemed like nothing. I was like, what did I say or didn't say? Like, well, I thought we were having fun here. And then the whole night and the next 24 hours would be ruined because she would be upset about something, but wouldn't tell me. And I was like, what is going on? She was not the right fit for me in the long run, and we broke up eventually. But at one point she said to me, she goes, I didn't think I'd find you, like, I didn't think I'd find you now at this age of my life. I thought I'd find you like in my 30s. She was like in her young 20s, right? She's like, I thought I'd like have my fun in my 20s, and then the version of you, the idea of you would come at like 30 or something when she was ready. And she was holding on to so much baggage and like hurt from previous relationships, but she wasn't healing from it at the time.
Exactly.
She was just kind of like sabotaging and like pushing away like the vulnerability that we were creating. Like we were having so much connection and vulnerability, but she was just like, I'm scared, you know.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Because she lost emotional control with you, and that's a scary place to be in. And so the only thing she can do at that point is look for something to be wrong to validate walking away. Because if she can't find something wrong, how can she say, I can't do this, I don't want to be here anymore? So now it starts to nitpick, create issues, but it all stems from, yes, she has not healed. And I would argue that the vast majority of people are married to someone they don't even have the deepest feelings for.
Really?
Yes.
What's the percentage you think in your mind?
If I had to throw out a number, I'm going to say
Uneducated
60%.
guess.
Yeah,
60%.
60% I'm just going to throw out there. And it could be a lot higher.
I feel like 60% of people don't love, what did you say?
They're not married to the person they have the deepest feelings for, all right? The person they have the deepest feelings for, that situation somehow went left, people run. Like in your situation, in her mind, you were too good to be true.
Yeah.
This was not real.
Yeah.
And she could not believe that she was experiencing this at this time of her life. And to be honest with you, she wouldn't have been ready at 30 either.
Right.
Because at 30, she still wouldn't have healed. You would have came along and she'd been like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And so it's a very common thing.
Really?
It happens a lot more than people think. Like I'm willing to bet there are men who are going to hear this and they're going to say, oh my gosh, that happened to me.
Wow.
All right. And people don't hear about it as much because now when that woman tells her story to someone else, she doesn't say, oh, he was too good, I was scared, I ran away.
He did this and he had this fault and I had this red flag. And
yes.
all these challenges
Yes.
came up and he looked at me, I don't know, something,
Exactly, because again, she has to validate her decision and she has to make herself feel more comfortable about the fact that she ran away from you.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gonna hit her. It's gonna hit her hard one day. And don't be surprised if one day, I mean, I don't know if she's
it's already
listening,
happened
but
many times.
she
It's
comes
happened
back.
many times. Don't worry. No, we weren't the right fit. It was, it's all good.
Okay.
And I wish her the best. But yeah, she's tried to come back many times.
Yeah,
and
they
it's
always.
all good. Who do you think runs away more from vulnerability in a relationship that has the potential to be great, men or women?
People gonna be shocked, but women, hands down.
Why is that?
Okay, one, I think that because women are more emotionally in tune and they give more emotionally, so become a lot more emotionally invested in situations, it's quicker for themselves to feel like they're losing themselves when they feel this amazing connection with somebody. Because again, it pulls you into an area that you're not used to being in.
They lose control.
Yes, because it's like, if you're with a guy that you really like, all right, and you're really into him, but he doesn't call you today, it'll bother you, but it's not gonna drive you crazy like the guy who you're madly into, all right? When he doesn't call you, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, what is he doing? What's happening? Am I good enough? Women will start to question and analyze everything. That will drive them insane. Also, the reality is that women are hearing so much from other women or from what they've only experienced, good men don't exist. There are no good men here. This is a fairy tale to believe you can meet this guy who's so great and so amazing. So when they meet that guy, it's something has to be wrong.
This is too good to be true.
Exactly. I cannot believe this is what it is.
Let me check his background record. He went to jail.
He must have secret kids somewhere.
Exactly.
Something is going on. On the flip side, when men come across that situation, they think, oh my gosh, I've hit the jackpot. Like, I found a woman who separates herself from everyone else. They latch onto it. The problem, though, with men is we don't typically handle those situations well in regards to, one, how that woman is reacting. So if she's feeling insecure or she's feeling uneasy, we get frustrated because it's almost like, well, we had this amazing connection. I'm doing my best to love you. Why are you acting like this? So now we may react in a way that fuels her fear.
That fear, yeah.
Exactly, and creates more problems. So we do contribute to the issue, but we're not quicker to run away. We're quicker to latch on and say, oh my gosh, I want this. This is an opportunity I can't let pass me by. Wow. Where she's thinking, this is not a real. This can't be true. I'm fooling myself. Let me run now before I get hurt even worse later.
Before I get too deep in and then it's hard for me to get out.
Exactly.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Who messes up relationships more? If women tend to run away more, if a man knows how to manage the runningness away, who ends up messing up relationships more, men or women, in your experience?
That one's hard to say. I'm gonna lean towards men, and only because I feel like men aren't as in tune into what we're doing wrong in the moment. So for example, the other day I had a client came to me, his fiance broke up with him, all right? And he had said that back in earlier this year, they had this argument, and it was over the fact that there weren't towels prepared for her when they were staying at some family's house. Now, she's saying to him in this argument, you don't appreciate me, you don't make me a priority, essentially. And he's saying, why are we arguing about a towel?
Right.
And I had to explain to him, like, listen, it's not about the towel. Listen to her words. She said, you never appreciate me. Let's explore that. So I think that there's a disconnect a lot of times with guys not understanding what they're overlooking, what they're missing, not truly hearing what the woman is saying, because she's not always very clear and transparent about what's going on, which, yes, is an issue, which does contribute to the problems. But I do think that men, knowingly and unknowingly sometimes, make a lot of mistakes that cause damage to relationships. I don't want to necessarily put more blame on them, but I do think,
general, you're saying,
it happens more on that side.
And when did you start to learn about relationships so well? Because right now you're not married, you're not in a relationship. So what gives you this experience of relationship expertise and understanding?
So it's a combination of things. One, it was ever since I was a kid, people came to me and told me their life story.
Really?
Yes. I remember being 13. I met a woman for the first time at a party. At the party, she's telling me how she's been raped, how all these horrific things have happened to her that she's never told anyone else. And I could see this was a one-time thing, but this was a reoccurring theme. I remember at the bus stop one time, someone sitting next to me and then opening up. And I never understood why, but what that did was it allowed me to see into people's lives more than the average person does. Therefore, gain a better, more clear understanding of what's really going on.
Right.
But what really, I think, bust the doors wide open was when I went abstinent. Because I feel like as men, when we still have sex on the brain and sex as the focus, we don't see straight, all right? And we don't process things properly.
You were in a relationship at the time, you mean? Or?
No, I was single,
Okay. Yeah.
and I felt God was telling me I needed to step away from women and just be abstinent. And this also coincidentally was when the business really took another step and went to a higher level. And so it allowed me to refocus, but in not just refocusing purpose and business-wise, I was able to really see things for what they were. I was able to step away from situations and really evaluate, understand, because so much is happening and so much, it's not that we don't know, but sometimes we don't know how to articulate it. We don't know how to process and break it down. Now that I do believe is a natural gift that I've been given. I just know how to express things in a way that people can understand it. And I know how to process things and see beyond what you're showing me. Because a lot of people will act like, I'm happy, I'm good, nothing wrong with me, and I can see right through that.
Yeah.
All right? So that combination of natural gift, letting God lead me as far as my purpose is concerned, but I do think that being abstinent and really taking my selfish desires out of it.
Wow. When did this happen? How old were you?
I was what, 27?
You've been abstinent since 27?
There's been some on and off. I haven't been perfect with it.
Sure.
But I did go a stretch of 5 years.
Wow.
And I really think that helped open my eyes to another level and really allow me to see things more clearly. And not just see things more clearly, but also fine-tune how I express things. Because I was the person when I was younger who was very blunt, very bold, just said how I felt, didn't care how you felt about it. And I learned, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Yeah. And learning how to convey the message in a way that people can actually receive it was something I had to work on as well, especially as I found myself in this position. I never knew I was going to be doing this.
Wow.
I never saw this as my future, but once I kind of got to that place of accepting it, I realized I had things I had to improve upon and make better so that I can truly help people the way they need to be helped.
What's the greatest lesson you learned in a partnership or intimate relationship of yours that you've had?
Don't internalize things personally. And what I mean is, a lot of times we react to what they're doing or how they're talking to us or their behavior towards us in that moment, not realizing it's deeper than us in that moment.
It's not about us, it's about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we internalize it and we react to that, we will now make things worse. And we will pile on more negative energy into the situation, and it starts to make things harder to overcome, or it can just break apart the whole relationship.
Yeah.
So learning to kind of take a step back and really, again, hearing them, not just listening to what they're saying, or not just hearing them, more so listening as far as listen to the key words, listen to what's really going on with them. Take your own emotions out of it. Don't react emotionally to things. And I think that's a lesson for not just romantic relationships. That's for any relationship. Business, family, whatever. Don't be so quick to react emotionally. Allow yourself to process. I always tell people, you know how they say, think before you speak, pray before you speak. Pray before you react. Allow yourself to just calm your spirit, listen, process, then speak. Because too many times that emotional reaction, it's just adding more fire to the flame.
What should be the key things people are looking for in any partner to thrive and maintain a relationship long term in today's society?
The first thing that came to mind is connection. All right. I am a firm believer that you can't have an amazing relationship, at least long term, without connection. A lot of people get by on that initial hype. All right, that initial excitement. Oh, they're so wonderful. Their resume is so great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's cool, but that's not going to sustain you. Is there something deeper there? Can you two truly be each other, be yourselves with each other? Open up, share your inner thoughts, be emotionally naked with this person. If you can and you still enjoy their presence, enjoy speaking to them, you feel good when they're around you. Okay, we got something we can work with here. Even if everything's not in perfect alignment, we have the foundation to now grow the relationship. But without that, it's just fluff.
Is connection something that's created, or is it just, does it only happen between certain people?
It only happens between certain people.
Really?
It's either there or it's not.
And you should know it in the first few minutes, or is it maybe it takes...
I won't say you'll know it in the first few minutes. I think it can vary. I think it depends on how spiritually in tuned you are, or how emotionally grounded you are. If you're in a very emotionally healthy place, I do think you're going to recognize it very quickly, all right? But a lot of times, you pick up on it, but you're scared to embrace it. You're still rationalizing what's going on here. And we've been programmed to believe it all takes time. So when we see this experience where two people it's like this, they click, and they're feeling these intense feelings right away, everyone else is saying, slow down, this can't be real, or you're jumping the gun. In reality, no. Because in most situations, let's just say if not in a few minutes, the first date, people know. People know like there's potential here or there's not, or this one could be the one or they're not. But we rationalize why we should entertain this and move further, give it a chance, waste our time, and then we find ourselves stuck in situations we don't belong in. And now we try to make it work because we've invested so much and we don't want to now admit that we were wrong or we wasted our time. We're lonely. Various reasons cause us to hang on to situations we don't belong in. But we knew from the beginning. Like when I speak to people who are divorced and I ask them,
when did you know?
When did you know? Yeah.
A lot of people like my wedding day, or like it's
exactly.
Like I knew when I was walking down the aisle. You're like, why did you get married?
Exactly.
I hate when people answer that way. I'm like, why would you get married?
And even way before then, forget the marriage day might have been when reality truly hit, or they allowed themselves to see it. But then at that point, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you gotta follow through. Your family's there, and you don't want to be embarrassed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, the reality is that person saw it way before. But again, they rationalized past it then. And now they found themselves in this more difficult position, and they can't do anything about it.
And then they get a divorce a year or two later. They
25 years later. I know. Listen, I know one couple who were married for 25 years. After they got divorced, everyone was against it because on the outside looking in, they looked like this great couple. All right, but they were miserable. All right, behind closed doors. Well, the wife let me read a letter that the husband wrote her before they got married.
No way.
I read this letter, and the first thing I say is, why did you ever get married? It was clear as day in this letter that you guys should not have taken that step.
What did it say generally?
It was just in general calling out all these different issues and problems. It was a clear disconnect between the two. And once I started to learn the real story, you saw that they did not have that deep connection. They were two people who did not fit together. And what they lacked was the other thing I was going to bring up as far as what people need is balance, all right? I think too many times we're fixated on equality and not enough on balance.
What's the difference?
The difference is this. Equality is almost like, all right, LeBron and Dwayne Wade joined together. They both are alpha males of their team. They're both superstars. They both can shoot. There's some level of equality there. But you know what? They could not win a championship until one decided who's going to be the main person here. It wasn't about equality, it was about balance. It was about complementing each other, learning how to work together. D Wade or the rest of the team being able to do the things that LeBron can't do everything on his team. He needs the right players around him. So it's the same thing in relationships. It's not about they have to be able to do everything we do. We got to be able to do everything they do. It's about, can we complement each other? Can we balance each other? Can I fit in, or can I have the strengths where you have the weaknesses? All right? And in a way that doesn't conflict. And I believe the conflict part is when you don't have a connection, they will conflict. When there is a connection, that's when you're going to find balance. Because now, when there's a connection, we embrace our differences.
You can communicate better. You can say, this is what you're really good at. Why don't you do more of these things and let me do these things?
Exactly. And we can find a way to make it a whole unit.
Wow.
That's how we create amazing relationships. Balance, to me, is the greatest key. Balance and connection, you have those two things, you win.
Wow.
You know? And if you look at most failed relationships, they lack those two things.
Two things, connection
and balance.
There might be some forced connection, or they've lost the connection because it wasn't really
they never had the connection.
It was never true. It was like the hype of the connection. It
exactly.
was like the sexual connection, or the resume of this person, or the idea of this person.
Well, it was more so chemistry. Like, chemistry is not connection. All right? Chemistry can be created. All right? And again, so using the whole basketball analogy, a team comes together, you can build chemistry. We can learn how to work together. We can learn how to coexist, so to speak. But that doesn't mean we really like each other at its core, all right?
Yeah.
There's the difference. So you can have a team where the players learn to play together, but they still hate each other, all right?
So they had chemistry.
But no connection.
But not connection.
Exactly. When you have connection in a relationship, that is way more important than chemistry, because the connection will bring the chemistry. Love is not an action. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard that saying, that love is an action. And right now, the idea that I'm saying that it's not is probably like, this is ridiculous. What is this man even talking about? But let me explain to you, all right? Love is not an action. Love is, well, you know what? Let me not tell you what love is yet. Let me first go into why it's not an action and what it actually is. So here's the thing. Love can be expressed through actions. It should be expressed through actions. But actions themselves do not define love, all right? Now, I spoke about this in a previous video where I say someone can be in love with you and do nothing about it. They're not taking any current action on it. That does not mean they are not in love with you. That does not mean they don't truly love you. There may be other factors that is hindering their ability to take action on it. But let's go deeper than that. Let's consider the fact that you have a man, two men, and they both give a homeless person $1, all right? One man gave that $1 because he genuinely cared for that homeless person, wanted to encourage him, help him, you know, so on and so forth. The other man gave that $1 because he wanted to impress the people who were walking by looking at him and get them to think he's a really nice guy. Both had the same action, but what determined what was really going on was their intent behind the action. A person's love is determined by their intent. Action in itself does not tell you what's really going on. And when we have this mentality that it's an action, this is where things can get really tricky and confusing. So let's put this within a relationship dating context, all right? I've had scenarios where women would say, I did everything for this man, or a woman would say, I did everything for this man. I loved him. I gave him all that he wanted, so on and so forth. But it still wasn't enough. Love didn't win. Love didn't conquer anything. And I say, no, you're wrong. Love was not even there to begin with. You did not carry out those actions because you loved him. You carried out those actions because you were afraid to be alone. You were afraid to face the end of your relationship. You were afraid to walk away from the investment that you made. There's all kinds of various reasons that may have pushed you. You may have wanted to be able to claim you were doing your part. So you were fueled by your pride of looking like you were loving this man, but it wasn't truly love at the core of it. It wasn't love that was driving your actions. Same way I've seen some people say, well, this man must love her because he did X, Y, Z.
But no, his current actions weren't driven by love, they're driven by manipulation. He's trying to manipulate that woman, make her think he loves her, make her think that he will give her all that she wants, only to switch up on her later on because love was never driving his actions. So when you think it's love is an action and now you're looking to analyze actions to determine love, you can be fooled. You can be misled because again, you are not tapping into what it truly is. Love is your spirit. Biblically, it says God gave us a spirit of love. Love is within us. It is, and for some who may want to view it as energy, whichever, it is within us. And then we choose to express that love through actions. And love is then determined by what was our intent in that situation. Were we trying to pour into that individual, or we were trying to get something out of that individual? Were we looking to encourage and uplift them, or we were looking to make ourselves feel better about the situation? This is what's going to tell you what's really love. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, then how the hell am I supposed to know when someone truly loves me or not? Well, let's start here. Do you truly even love them? See, one of the best ways to figure out if you're in the right place is start with where are your true feelings. There are people, and it might be you, when you're in a relationship trying to determine if this person really loves you, but if you asked yourself how you truly felt about them, you would realize you're not even in love with them. You don't love them like that. And if you don't, then trust what you think is their love or what they're trying to present to you as love is not real. It may be infatuation. It may be attachment. It may be all kinds of other things, obsession. However, true love is a two-way connection. All right? Now, again, and that's why I said true love and being in love. Now, you can express your love again through actions, but if you do not truly love this individual, why would you even bother being there? Who even cares whether they love you or not if you don't even love them? So start with evaluating yourself and how you feel. But again, let's get back to the main topic at hand. Love is not an action. And you have to start to embrace that, and you have to start to get more in tune with your spirit, because the more you are in tune with your spirit, the more you can pick up on someone else's spirit and the intent in their spirit that is driving their current action. Is it manipulation? Is it a selfish action that they're taking to try to make it look like it's love? This will be easier to determine when you are more in tune with yourself, with God, with your spirit. So this is something I want to share because I see so many people regurgitating this whole love is an action thing, and it's simply not true. It is your spirit. It starts from within, and then you will make the choice to express. Now listen, let me say this real quick. I find it so fascinating that people highlight the divorce rate, and they use the divorce rate to validate not entertaining marriage or how to downplay marriage or their reasons for not wanting it in their life. But the breakup rate is probably astronomical if we could actually measure it, all right? So many people are getting in and getting out of relationships, and so many people are suffering and experiencing the bulk of the damage in these relationships. So by the time they even get to a potential marriage partner, if that's what you want in your life, you've gone through so much, you don't know how to deal with the good thing when it's in front of your face. But I digress. We're not going to get into that right now. What we're going to focus on is why. Why are these relationships failing? What are we doing wrong? What approach are we taking that is working against us? All right. So let's get to it. Number one reason, no particular order, just starting off with number one. First reason why relationships fail, a lack of emotional maturity. So here's the thing, or here's the problem. So many people have not learned how to manage their emotions. So many people are reactive rather than thinking, praying, processing before taking any action on what they're feeling, all right? And this creates so many toxic situations. This creates situations where people say things they regret. This creates people taking actions that come back to haunt them. So much goes wrong because people do not learn how to manage their emotions. And we're not really being taught that. Unfortunately, it's almost like you're supposed to freestyle in life and figure it out. And unfortunately, you're probably surrounded by other individuals who lack emotional maturity, so you don't even know what a good, healthy level of maturity looks like emotionally. You're sitting here thinking that your dysfunctional ways of handling things, no offense, just keeping it real, but your dysfunctional ways of handling things are normal, are par for the course. This is the way it is. But the reality is that this is why so many relationships fail. This is why over 80% of relationships are failing, because that lack of emotional maturity. You've got to learn to pray before you react. You've got to learn to think before you react. You've got to learn how to understand that what you're feeling in that moment, all right, can pass. And it may not truly depict what's actually going on. Yes, sometimes when we're talking about intuition, granted, you know I'm a big believer in intuition and I would never want you to ignore it. But even in listening to your intuition, well, actually, no. If your intuition's hitting you, just listen. I don't want to make any excuses for that or give you any alternative route in there. If it's intuition, that's one thing. But when it's your mind, when it's what you're seeing, when it's what you think you're hearing, it's not really a spiritual thing occurring within you. It's not what you're sensing. It's just what you're processing in that moment very quick, not properly processing, just quickly emotionally processing and then reacting. That's a problem. That has to change. And again, if we would just learn to take a step back and not be so quick to react, so many relationships can be saved. So many people will not see relationship go left. And sometimes what we don't realize is, even if you think you've escaped the moment of your reaction, possibly destroying your relationship, what you don't realize is you've planted the seed. You've created a crack in this relationship to where now your partner is more on edge. Now your partner is looking at you differently. Now your partner is hesitant to be more open with you. Whatever the case may be, all because of the way that you reacted in that moment, and then we struggle to get past that. So a lack of emotional maturity, first reason to mention as to why relationships fail. Now the second reason, which completely connects to the first reason as to why relationships fail, is poor communication. So piggybacking off, we said in number one, a lack of emotional maturity. So a lot of times people are just reacting, people get upset, they get in their feelings, and rather than talking about it, they either shut down, they act out, they do things that work against them, whereas if they would have just sat down and discussed it, they may have been able to fix things. I cannot tell you how many times I have counseled a couple, whether it was a married couple or just boyfriend and girlfriend, and the relationship ends, and when you talk to both individuals, what you find out is neither one completely had a full picture as to what the issue was. And they didn't have that full picture because the other person never fully explained it, as well as they never fully explained it. Well, same thing. They never fully explained it to their partner. So essentially, people think they're talking, but they're not. What they're doing is they're arguing, they're screaming, they're reacting in the moment, all right? But they're not effectively communicating. So one, it's not just talking about it, it's effectively talking about it. It's learning how to be heard and to hear them. It's learning how to gain the clear picture of what they're saying rather than assuming things. So much goes wrong because people assume, well, this is what they meant. This must mean that. They start analyzing, overthinking, and they assume wrong. And you know what they say about assuming? I'll leave it at that. But the bottom line is you have to learn to talk to each other. You have to learn how to gain clarity. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, what am I supposed to do if I'm with someone who doesn't want to talk? Well, my first question is, why are you still with them? If you can't talk to your partner, there is no relationship. What are we doing there? We're wasting our time. Now, again, you should make sure you have taken all steps to create healthy communication in that relationship. But if you've done that and they simply refuse, there's nothing to do. It's time to let them go. All right. So make sure that that is the route that you've taken in trying to establish effective communication. And the key is you want to do that as early as possible, not even just in the relationship, while you're even dating. If you have a dysfunctional way of communication or just not a strong foundation of communication in the dating process, well, guess what? You're going to take that into the relationship. You're going to take that into the marriage. You're only going to pass on the bad habits and the dysfunction if it's not corrected. So you can't keep waiting, because the longer you wait, the harder it gets to correct it. The more you have to undo. The process gets a lot more difficult. And so for a lot of people, it's not that the situation cannot be fixed. It's they're too tired to do all the work to fix it. They're too tired to deal with all the drama and baggage that has been piled on from bad communication, from a lack of emotional maturity, and all the other things going on that create dysfunction. And it's just like, I don't have enough energy to deal with this, so I'd rather just walk away. Or they remain in the relationship, allowing it to be more dysfunctional, causing more damage. So at the end of the day, you got to talk. You got to be able to communicate, because poor communication is a huge reason why relationships are failing. Next on the list, number 3 reason why relationships fail. And this one, honestly, is probably my favorite. When I say favorite, I mean it's what I really feel passionate about talking about right now. You're not maintaining who they fell for. Now, notice I said who they fell for. I didn't say fall in love with, simply because not everyone's actually falling in love. Some people are just becoming attached, infatuated, but again, that's a whole nother video that we'll talk about that topic. But the point is, them falling for you, which can include all of those things mentioned, falling in love, infatuation, whatever. Their reason for wanting to be with you, those things fall to the wayside. Those things disappear. So let's get more specific. All right, let's start from the woman's angle. And this is just examples. If you're a woman, you're dating this man, and initially he's taking you out, he's calling you on a regular basis, let's say daily. He sends you good morning texts, whatever it is that you like that made you say, man, I really want to be with this guy. And then at some point, he stops. He's no longer consistent. He's no longer doing the things that got you. And guess what? The same thing happens on the other side. The woman initially doing all this sweet stuff, making him feel good, showing him the love and attention that he needs, presenting herself to him in ways that makes him happy. And then at some point, it falls off. And unfortunately, people have this expectation of, well, if you love me, you should love me despite me taking away the things that actually made you want to be here. All right, think about that. You should love me enough that despite me removing the things that made you even want to be with me, you should overlook that and stay with me. But I should not love you enough to keep those things on the table to keep you happy. What kind of dysfunctional mentality is that? Again, no disrespect, but the reality is so many people are engaging in this mindset where you think it's okay to fall off and they should maintain loving you. And listen, guess what? Newsflash. They may still love you. They just don't want to be with you in a relationship. They don't want to stay committed, which goes to the title of this video, Why Relationships Fail. Again, some people did not stop wanting to love the individual, but they did not want to be held in a committed relationship with someone who does not want to pour into them the things that they need and desire, who stopped giving them the same things that made them say, I choose you. We have to learn how to maintain. Now, granted, life hits us, things change. There's going to be maybe some deviation, but we cannot use that as a scapegoat. We have to understand that we have to make a commitment to maintain at least at a good level, because I think we're all reasonable enough to understand that you won't be perfect every day. Some things will change here and there, but to simply just say, deal with it, remove it, and not even work towards bringing it back, that's a problem. So you better believe, yes. And again, if the relationship doesn't fail as far as that person leaving right away, it unfortunately opens the door to infidelity. Now listen, I'm not trying to excuse it or validate it. I'm explaining it to you. When you remove the things that made them happy, when you remove the things that made them choose you, they start to look for it elsewhere. They start to seek that attention, that love, whatever it is that they were getting from you, and then no longer getting it. They look to get it somewhere else. Now, again, we can sit here and say, well, they should just leave the relationship. Absolutely. But it doesn't always work that way. And regardless, the point is they're wrong for what they're doing, but you also have to hold yourself accountable for not maintaining the good things that they enjoy. That is your responsibility too. You can't ignore that. You have to own that if you want to avoid another failed relationship. Now, the fourth reason why relationships fail, this might hurt some of y'all. They were never who you truly wanted. Plain and simple. Every day I see people settling. Every day I see people who can't be with the person they truly love, so they go find someone else to fill the space. They find someone else to distract them from this reality. And all you're doing is setting yourself up for a guaranteed failed relationship. And again, let's not always equate failure with the two people break up, because some people stay together in dysfunctional, unhappy, miserable relationships and marriages. That's still failure. There's no point in being together if you're going to make each other miserable. But to get back to the original point, yes, too many individuals are getting with someone when that's not who you really want. That's not who you feel the strongest for. That's not the person that you are drawn to and have a high level of desire for. They are just good enough to be with because you want to be with someone. They're good enough to be with because you can't be with the person that truly has your heart. And unfortunately, this is not fair to them, nor is it fair to you. You are living a life where you will feel a void as long as you stay in that relationship. And there are many of you watching this video right now who feel this void. This word is punching you in your gut because you know this applies to your situation. You know you don't belong there. And I'm sorry if this is making you feel some kind of way, but I need you to hear this. Because it is inevitable that you're going to suffer even more remaining there. It is inevitable that you will do more damage to that individual who may be blindly thinking that everything is okay, but your heart is not in it. Your heart was never in it. You don't belong there. They don't belong there. I'd much rather you be single, focused on you, and preparing to receive what is truly best for you than to be in a relationship where you know you settled, where you know this ain't for you, where you know this is pulling you away from where you truly belong, not just in another relationship, but in your life in general. So again, the point is, people are choosing individuals they never really wanted to begin with. And that is a surefire way for that relationship to fail. So all this brings me to the last reason why relationships fail. And real quick again, there can be other reasons, which is why I want you to comment below, add some more to the list. These are just my big five, you can say, all right? This is just my big five, you can say, all right? So number 5 is there was never a connection. Now, again, this kind of goes hand in hand with they were never who you truly wanted to begin with. But any one of you who have watched my videos in the past, who have read my books, you know I am big on connection. Now, to kind of give a brief explanation of connection, to me, connection is a deeper spiritual occurrence. It is when your spirit is recognizing its match. It is when two people can truly be themselves with each other and love each other. It's two people who are very drawn to each other. It's two people where it just clicks. It's just there. You don't have to force anything. I always say you cannot create a connection, nor can you destroy it. There are examples of people who met when they were younger. They felt this amazing connection. For whatever reason, things didn't work out because connection doesn't guarantee you're going to be with them. And again, that's a whole nother video. But the point is, those people, let's say they fall apart, 10, 20 years later, they run back into each other. Because for whatever reason, not whatever reason, but connection, it always comes back around. At some point, it always comes back around. And when it does, it's almost like nothing's changed as far as you still feel it with them. The feelings come right back. It's like you were talking to them just yesterday. Like, connection is a very strong, powerful experience, and it's not something you experience with everybody. You can like a lot of people, you can love a lot of people, but you do not feel a connection, a deep and genuine connection with everyone, and it is not to be confused with chemistry. But again, I don't want to go too deep because this requires its own video by itself. But the point is, this is what I have found to be the huge missing ingredient in these failed relationships. And not coincidentally, but the point is that when you have connection, a lot of these other things I mentioned, they go away. Two people who have a deep and genuine connection have an easier time communicating with each other. They do have a high level of desire for each other. Now, the lack of emotional maturity can still be a problem, even with two people who have a connection, all right? But they have a better ability to work through those moments, all right? And so ultimately, connection is in some ways not a cure-all, because again, there are so many issues that can get in the way of two people who have a connection actually being together. But it is the ingredient that can strengthen the relationship, that will give you a higher rate of success. And when it's not there, it is pretty much inevitable the relationship is going to fail. At some point, some people can tolerate that person year, 3 years, maybe 5 years. But at some point, when you don't really like them like that, you just don't want to be there anymore. And you just try to make it work, maybe for the kids, maybe because you built this life around this whole false relationship, maybe because you're trying to prove people wrong, maybe because your family wants you to be there, maybe because of your friends, whatever, all right? But all those reasons don't change the fact that you don't feel a connection with this individual. You never did. And this is why relationships and marriages are failing. So many people are marrying the person they have no connection with. And they're able to tolerate this individual because they have bombarded themselves with things in life. They bombarded themselves with my work, my kids. They find extra things to do to distract themselves. Their life is filled with distractions to keep them from accepting the reality that you don't really like your partner, that you don't really feel like you belong in that relationship, that you do not have a connection with them. But to not face it, you go deal with everything else going on in this world, and you use it as your scapegoat. That's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. But again, to get back to the point here, this is why the relationship fails. This is what needs to be corrected. You got to make sure you get in a relationship where there is a genuine connection, all right? Now, here's a quick bonus, because if you know anything about me, you know I'm a believer, you know I'm a man of God. So I cannot let this video end without saying, for me and for other believers, a huge reason why relationships fail, because you're not putting God first. You're not keeping God at the forefront. And listen, when we say put God first, it's not just saying it with your words. It's not just acting all holy and better than anyone in any kind of way. No, it's about leaning on God in the tough moments. It's about learning to let God guide you when you have that situation where you need some more emotional maturity. It's about letting God tell you who is the person for you and who's not. It's about letting God lead you in that moment where you feel like acting a fool because your partner's acting a fool. But if you went to God, he would check you real quick and you would get yourself together and handle it appropriately. You would handle it more effectively. We've got to learn to make God the focus. We also need to learn that if we're in a relationship where we say God is first, then let's pray together. Let's come together and go to God together. Let's have that intimate moment. Praying together is such a powerful, loving, intimate thing to do when you're in a relationship. And it will help strengthen that relationship. So again, let's not just talk about God being first. Let's actually take actions that include him and that hold us to a higher standard of how we treat our partner, how we pour into this relationship, how we represent this relationship when we're not in front of our partner. Because it's not about just acting nice when we're in front of them and then act a damn fool when you're not. No, it's about maintaining that high standard so that when people see you away from your partner, they still see that shining light. They still see that reason why, dang, that's a great, amazing person that clearly has God in their life.
And the reality is that
dating can feel like an annoyance at times. It can feel like it's not worth it at times. But I feel like it's because we're not taking the most effective approach. We don't understand how to get better results. And so we're kind of fighting with one hand tied behind our back. And so I want to give you information and insight that's going to help you get better results. All right. So let's just get right into it. 5 first date tips for women. Tip number 1, and now I'm gonna put it out there right now. I'm making this number 1 because I feel like this is just so important to emphasize. So tip number 1, speak in the positive during your date. Listen, you gotta understand that men are drawn to feminine energy. And people in general are drawn to positive and feminine energy. But one thing I've seen it in my own experiences, I've heard and seen it in other men's experiences, or from just women telling me what they went through, is women go on these dates and not being mindful of the negative tone in which they're speaking, not being mindful of the negative energy that they're giving off. Maybe it's because you're a bit guarded while you're on this date, you're overthinking and overanalyzing, so essentially you have walls up. And that is throwing things off, all right? I understand why you may be concerned, and there's reasons to be concerned anytime you're meeting someone new. However, you gotta go into this being open, being free, allowing yourself to enjoy, allowing yourself to speak more and walk more in positive and feminine energy. So when you are on this date, focus less on talking about things you don't like. Focus on talking about things you do like. Don't focus on the criticism of things. Focus on how you can point out beautiful things in this world. Like whatever it's going to take to keep you in that positive mindset, do that. Because when you come off so positive, loving, and feminine, that's going to draw in that man's attention even more. That is going to raise the chances of you guys being able to come together and that second date happening and for something greater to happen in this situation. So you want to be very mindful and intentional to speak in the positive when you are on these first dates. Because remember, man, that first impression is very important. So don't let it be a negative one. Now, number 2, all right? And technically you could say this should have been before number 1. I just felt like number 1 was too important to make it number 2. Anyways, number 2, take your appearance seriously. Now listen, I know you're like, what you mean? Of course we take it seriously. I know that you do to you. But what I mean is this, you're going out with a man. And a lot of you aren't always being mindful of bringing your best. Now, again, it's not that we're trying to make it all about how you look in your physical appearance. But let's not act like that doesn't play a role in the evaluation of if we want to build a relationship with someone. And we, again, want to make a great first impression. So you not only want to make sure you're trying to look your best, but you're looking your best as far as what appeals to men. Now, please don't misconstrue that to think, I want you to be out there with your breasts all hanging out because you think it's going to get a man's attention even more. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there are certain clothes and styles and colors even that are going to work more in your favor, that are going to be specific to you and what works well with you. And so you want to learn to identify these things in advance so that you can go in with your best. So you know how like with work, people have a power suit, all right, when they go on interviews. So find your power outfit for dates. Now, you may not want to wear the same outfit every single time you go on a first date, even though that's your choice. But even if it's multiple outfits of the same style that encompass those colors, that style, that fit, that works well with you and your body, find that and then use it to your advantage. Now, here's a little key to finding that great style that's going to be effective for you. Get the opinion of other men. A lot of y'all are going out with the opinions of women leading you, all right? And sometimes they may be great opinions, and other times your girlfriends are setting you up, having you look a hot mess when you walk out that house. And you think you're good, but you're not. You're not as good as you think you're looking, all right? And it's not you're not capable of looking much better. It's just that you are not tapping in to the style that truly works for you and the color. And let me just emphasize, I do think that in most cases, wearing colorful clothes will work to your advantage on your first date. Because going back to point number one, color can emit energy. So you want something that's bright, colorful, it's more positive, it's more warm, it's more inviting rather than the dark colored clothes. Now, I'm not saying there aren't any exceptions to that rule, but I do think, again, in most cases, the color will work more to your advantage. But either way, find that style, find that power outfit that's gonna work well for you and then rock that, all right? And again, get the opinions of other men. I know when I would go shopping, whether it be for cologne or clothes, all right, I would get the opinions of women because I'm trying to attract women. I wasn't trying, why would I get the opinions of my friends, my homeboys, when I'm trying to go out with ladies? Find out what they like, what they think is appealing on me, and then use that. So I think you should do the same thing. Talk to the men, get their insight, and then use that to your advantage. The number three first date tip for you, all right, is smell good. It's so simple, yet it is overlooked all the time, all right? The power of smell is something serious. I said in the previous video, it's called 3 Ways to Become More Attractive, that smelling good makes everybody a little bit cuter. Like everybody looks a little bit better when they smell good. And again, we're focusing on that first impression. Now, I would love for you to consistently aim to smell good, of course, but we're gonna go on that first date. We wanna come with our best foot forward. So whether that be nice smelling lotions or oils, whatever it is, perfume, whatever works for you, make it happen. But make sure you smell nice. Put some effort into that, all right? Because again, that's going to have an impact. And when you start combining these things, when you start, you're smelling good, you're wearing your power outfit, you're speaking positive, exuding feminine energy, I'm telling you, you're going to see your results go through the roof. I'm not exaggerating. You're going to see things be so much better. Even in cases where maybe this guy just isn't for you, because that's the way it's going to be sometimes, you're going to have much more enjoyable experiences. And I believe you will also just feel better and more confident, which will also translate well in your first date. All right. Number 4 first date tip is let the conversation flow. So here's a huge mistake a lot of women make is you go into these dates interrogating the man or prepared to interrogate, and that's what ends up happening. And you're just running off these questions and you're just trying to dig. And listen, there is nothing wrong with asking questions. There is nothing wrong with diving deep into each other and trying to get to know each other on the first date. I know some people may say, no, you need to wait. No, forget all that. There's nothing wrong with having deep discussions on the first date. But there's a difference between a natural flow of conversation that takes us there versus trying to interrogate and force the issue. You don't want to come off like that. You don't want to come off like it's this strict interview that you're having. You just want to talk, all right? And even if you have your certain questions that you want to ask, flow with the conversation. Because again, if you guys start going into what he's purposed doing, let's say he found his purpose, I don't know why it's coming to my mind, but let's say he found his purpose and you're talking about that, all right? And you guys are having a great discussion. Well, you just don't stop in the mid-discussion and say, okay, so do you want kids? Like, you can't, that's bad. You're breaking the flow of it. Now, if he naturally, in discussing his purpose, brings up family and kids, now it's a perfect time to ask about his position or his perception of kids. But you don't force it in there. So just let things flow. Be aware. Be present in the moment. Because the reality is that when we're not letting things flow, we're not present in the conversation. We're more so in our mind. We're overthinking. We're overanalyzing. And so we're not really paying attention and listening to what they're saying that allows us to now flow and connect logical conversation to what's being discussed at the moment. So be very, very mindful of that on your first dates. And then last but not least, flirt, but don't get sexual. This is number 5. And this is a very important first date tip because, again, I think a lot of women have lost the art of flirtation. And the reason why flirtation is so important is because flirtation is, in essence, presents or shows desire, okay? And everyone wants to feel desired. And everyone wants to feel like you're actually interested in them. So when you're flirting, that makes them feel like, oh, okay, she actually likes me. There's something here that makes them feel good, that allows the situation to progress in a very positive manner. But you want to make sure you don't cross the line of the flirtation becoming sexual, all right? Because we don't want this to become a sexual situation. If we're trying to date for the purpose of relationship and eventually marriage, then we need to leave the sex off the table for as long as possible. I mean, ideally, of course, waiting till marriage, if you're a believer, is what you should be doing. But I know that doesn't apply to everybody. Everybody doesn't adhere to that. But at the very least, we want to delay that as much as possible and keep the focus on getting to know each other, see if there's a connection there. But flirting helps in the, again, expressing desire, expressing interest, and it increases the positivity of the situation. It just makes things a lot better overall. So simple flirting is complimenting him, you know, being willing to be affectionate, again, affectionate within certain bounds. So it could be hugs, or a nice hug, kissing the cheek, things of that nature. That shows a level of affection and flirtation that doesn't take it to the level of being sexual. Now, if he by chance takes your flirtation and tries to now make a sexual attempt, just simply know, hey, that's not too fast. Let's not go there yet. And if he's serious about you and very interested, he's not going to be offended or bothered by that. He'll respect you and he'll understand. He'll leave it alone. So don't get into your mind and think, well, I can't be flirtatious because he's going to take it the wrong way. No, you'll simply correct that issue if it does go in that direction. But you still want to work at that. Those compliments can go a long, long way. So those are my 5 first date tips for women, 5 great first date tips for women. Again, be sure to like this video, share it, subscribe to this channel, leave your comments below if there's any first date tips you think would be good for the other listeners to see and to read about. Let's talk about it in the comment section. But again, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. When a man really loves a woman, he will do for her things that he would do for no other woman. And he will show up in ways that maybe sometimes will surprise himself. Because at the end of the day, he wants